Hey, this is Everest John Alexander connecting with you once again. And today, what I want to do is just go ahead and share with you a little bit of who I am. I've done some videos on YouTube and they're all over, and I think probably some people are probably wondering, who is this guy? So I decided today that I'm going to take a few minutes and just give you some background as to who I am. And what I'm going to do is, I've got a lot to say. I've got a tremendous amount to say, so I'm going to be speaking a little more quickly than how I normally speak. Okay, so keep up. Alright, I'm going to give you my life in highlights and high points beginning from 1963, August 9th. I was born on the island of Trinidad and Tobago in the southern Caribbean, 7 miles off the coast of Venezuela. In 1978-7, I discovered that I wanted to rule the world and started my mission by trying to dominate everyone around me. Well, that didn't work out too well, so kind of put that on hold for a while. I also ended primary school at that time, in Standard 1. My best friend was a guy called Stephen Ramkisoon. Great friend, a wonderful guy. He's very, very tall for his age, so we call him Big Bird after the Sesame Street character. I remember one time in Mr. Pear's excuse me, math class, he was drilling Stephen on multiplication tables, and Stephen did not know the answer. And boy, Mr. Pear got angry, he was furious, and started to lay into him with some vicious blows. Man, Stephen was crying, I was crying as though I was getting, beaten also. It's just a really, really great friend of mine, and I was really sorry to see that. Anyway, that was the life back then. It was at 7 years old that I also got my first paying job. Yay! I worked for 1 week with my two older cousins. We were clearing debris from a demolished house in our neighborhood, and I was paid $5. Man, I was so excited. $5 bill. 7 years old. To me, that was like $1 million. Anyway, that was great. 1972, age 8, almost 9, my mom left Trinidad for the United States, went to live in Brooklyn, trying to make a better life for us. Thank God that she did. That's why I'm here today. Bless God. 1974, age 10, Standard 5, my best friend was Anthony Parmesar. You got to understand that the population of Trinidad and Tobago is about 50% East Indian and about 50% African descendants. A few races, other races mixed in, some Caucasian, Chinese, Syrian, Lebanese, and so forth. So, for some strange reason, though, I always found myself drawn to people of East Indian descent. For some strange, they've always been my best friends ever since I knew myself. I just love the whole East Indian culture, the language, the food, the music. Everything about it. Don't know why. If I didn't know better, I'd say I probably was an East Indian in my former life. Anyway, let's see. Later on that year, I passed my common entrance exam, entered into secondary school, Belmont Boys Secondary School. Great school. Made some really good friends there. Anthony Nash, Richard Augustus, Anthony Carmody, Derek Rodney, Martin Ryan. Great guys. But of course, true to form, my real close buddy was a guy called Vishnu Sigulam. Unfortunately, Vishnu did not stay with us very long. He migrated to Canada, and so our friendship never really matured. But he did leave me his binder as a gift when he left, and I really appreciated that. 1979, age 16, sat the Cambridge O-level exams, got a passing grade in biology, my favorite subject, yay! English language and geography. Oh yeah, also my dad died around that time too. He was, boy, that guy abused me for 7 years of my life. It was the worst 7 years of my life. Went to live with my dad when I was about 9, and he died 3 weeks before my 16th birthday. It was physical and mental abuse. The guy almost beat me to death one time. The neighbors had to rush over and beg him to stop. It was horrible. It was terrible. Anyway, he died, and I celebrated. I was contemplating throwing a party and inviting the world to come celebrate with me, but didn't have enough money, so that never matured. About a year later, I did shed a tear when it finally dawned on me that my dad had died. Okay, there we go. After he died, I moved back to my old neighborhood in San Juan, a place called Febo Village around Lavental Road, excuse me, where I was reunited with my cousins and friends who I grew up with and were really close to. Eric John, Wayne Osuna, Great guys who had nicknames like Crusher and Lion and Yum. These were my boys. Everybody was into the Rastafarian culture and lifestyle back in those days, and just to fit in, I started growing dread and eating ital, food with no meat, no salt, and just it was that just was the culture back in those days, So it was Rastafari. You almost worshipped Bob Marley. It was nice times though, nice times. Anyway, 1980, age 17, went back to school where I met my future wife. Yay! Lady Lorraine Alexander. The woman of my dreams. She's mixed, mostly East Indian, about 75% East Indian. Big surprise there, right? Started hanging out with her clique, which consisted of her cousin, Debbie, and a close friend, Shanti, whom we're still close with up to today. Great people. 1981, age 18, made some really good friends that first year when I went back to school, when I went to San Juan Private Secondary School. People like Daryl Stewart, Carlene Villarreal, who later became Carlene Stewart. Go Daryl, go yay. Rolson Rampol, Adrian McFarlane, Michelle Colastic, Petra George. Great. The best friends a guy could have, I tell you. Of course, there were many others, too numerous to mention. People like Cheryl, Jillian, Wendy, Kenwin, Brigadier Map. We had some great times in San Juan Private Secondary School, which we shortened to San Juan Secondary and then to San Juan Sec and then just to Sex. So, yeah, went to school in Sex and that was great. But you know what? During those 2 years that I went to that school, the person who had the greatest impact in my life really was a guy named Troy Cabral Samaru. We became like brothers. That he had the greatest impact on my life beside my wife. Was instrumental in actually leading me to Christ, leading me in the prayer of salvation several years later and so forth. Of course, he's a big-time preacher today. He's got his own church, Shekinah Worship Center, back home in Trinidad. Great guy. Wonderful. 1983, age 20, started working at the Bank of Nova Scotia as a teller. That did not last so long. 1986, age 23, Lorraine and I started seeing each other seriously. At first, she was just a friend, more like a sister to me. I was actually in love with her cousin. That didn't work out. But after 6 years of being best friends, just, I don't know, out of the blue, suddenly I just saw this girl in a totally different light. We started going around and one thing led to another. And 1987, age 24, we had our first baby boy, Ishmael Andrew Alexander, mighty man of God. 1988, age 25, Lauren and I got married on February 26th. She was a backslidden Christian at the time we got together. I was a heathen of humongous proportions. I was into the occult and the drugs, and oh my God, a messed up life. But she started praying for me, thank God. She started praying for me when we got married, rededicated her life to Christ, and at 4 a.m. every morning she got off that bed, prayed for me. I had no idea what she was doing. She told me this years later. And she prayed until I got saved. 5.5 months later, I was gloriously and wonderfully born again. August 11th, 1988. It was great. Troy is the person who actually led me to Christ. So, it was wonderful. We started attending Christ is the Answer Church of God under Pastor Joseph Correa. Did that for 8 years until God called me to my own ministry in 96. But back in 1990, age 27, Lauren and I had our second baby, a girl, Alicia Jade Alexander, mighty woman of God. Yay. 1992, age 29, my wife and I established our first business. It was a home-based ice cream business. Loved ice cream, started manufacturing ice cream and retailing it to the local schools in the area. Using our savings, and we started with one mobile cart. In 1 year we established 3 retail outlets. We were doing absolutely wonderful. We actually began wholesaling to the Trinidad Hilton, and that was a standard of the ice cream that we were producing. I need to continue this in the second video, so tune in. This is Everest John Alexander thanking you for spending this time with me. Tune in to part 2 and I'll continue right where I left off. Thanks for listening.